So, welcome to this session of the 2024 Northwest Interlibrary Loan and Resource Sharing Conference. Today's date is September the 19th, 2024. This session is a plenary panel titled Building Bridges, New and Improved Meets Tried and True, and it will be presented together by Jacob Long, Interlibrary Loan Coordinator at Bryn Mawr College, Don Mick, Head of Access Services at Iowa State University, and John Thoulag, the Department Chair of Access Services at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. My name is Katie DeVette, and I'm convening for this session. Please let us know if you can't hear or can't see the shared screen. This session is being recorded with permission from our presenters. We plan to make these recordings available once captions have been added. Expect an email from Whova when the recordings have been posted about 3 weeks after the conference. We will take questions from both the room and from our virtual attendees on Whova. Our virtual colleagues should post questions on the Whova Q&A tab, and don't forget to upvote your favorites. After the session, please complete the survey to enter our prize contest. And now with that, I think we start with Jacob.
Hello, can you hear me okay? Sweet. My name is Jacob Long. I spent the first 18 years of my life living in Payne. Payne is a small village in Northwest Ohio with a somewhat unfortunate sounding name that locals like to turn into a joke. From an early age, I was a voracious reader, and according to my mother, one of my elementary teachers said that I needed to learn to have fun and stop spending so much time with my head shoved in a book. I spent much of my free time either at my local public library or hidden away in the woods. I had often imagined becoming an author, teacher, or librarian. Over time, I found myself living in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and now I live on the main line, just kind of on the outskirts of the city. I am currently the Interlibrary Loan Coordinator at Bryn Mawr College in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania. I have been in this role for just shy of 1 year, having started on September 29th of 2023. Bryn Mawr College is a small liberal arts college with about 1,300 undergraduate students and a few graduate and PhD students. Alongside my role in resource sharing, I am actively in pursuit of my master's in library and information science through Penn West University in Pennsylvania. Next slide, please. Oh, good. But how did I get where I am now? Well, as mentioned, I had always wondered what it would be like to work as a librarian. So fast forward a few years from my time in Payne, and in 2013, I was pursuing my undergraduate degree. I needed a job on campus, and a friend referred me to the library. I eventually started working there part-time, and I immediately fell in love with it. But ultimately, I left the university life and did not graduate for quite a few different reasons. But this did not stop my reading habit. My friends used to joke, "Dude, didn't you drop out of college? Why are you torturing yourself by trying to read Hegel?" And an old professor of mine with whom I've stayed in touch once said to me, "You're probably the only person I know who dropped out of college so that they have more time to read." After leaving college, I found myself working in a variety of retail settings, eventually landing a role as an assistant manager at a nonprofit thrift store. After that job, I managed a health and wellness department at a local organic grocery store for about 4 years. During this period, I decided to re-enroll in college to finish my undergraduate degree so that I could pursue a master's in library science. I discovered Penn West's accelerated program, which is fully online. Through this program, I am able to take library graduate courses and count them as electives in my undergraduate degree and graduate much more quickly with 2 degrees. Alongside making this decision, I landed a job at a local public library part-time as a library assistant, primarily in the circulation department, but also sometimes running the reference desk. Soon thereafter, I accepted a role as a general manager of a local small health and wellness shop. I worked there alongside the public library position for about a year before a friend of mine, who knew I was looking for full-time library work, sent me a link to a very intriguing job, Interlibrary Loan Coordinator, which, as you can probably guess, was at Bryn Mawr College. I read through the job description and fell in love with it, perhaps a bit preemptively. The prospect of working with individuals at both the institutional and extra-institutional level was pretty exciting and seemed like a great way to get involved in the library world as someone who has spent very little time in it professionally. I applied in July of 2023, and here we are. So in some ways, my initial involvement in resource sharing was simply an accident. It was honestly just the first full-time library position I found. But a year into it, the job is much more than that to me. It would be easy to tell you why I enjoy the job, because there are a million reasons why I do. But it would be significantly harder to describe the aspects of the job that I don't like, since I can maybe think of two. It's a pretty rad gig. I had originally planned to study, graduate, and land a role as a reference or research librarian. But now, upon graduation, I'd like to stay in resource sharing. There's always so much going on, so many cool people to meet, so many niche articles to find. I feel like a detective. I get to collaborate with every department within the library and assist a variety of patrons. There are opportunities to engage with students and faculty, and you name it, there's always something going on. If you like sharing, it is the perfect job. But we're here to talk a bit about mentorship. I don't know that I have a specific mentor in my current role, but I can certainly say that having a network of people that I can rely on and ask for help has been absolutely instrumental to my success. My immediate colleague at Bryn Mawr is our Easy Borrow coordinator. Her assistance in my initial orientation cannot be ignored, and so I want to give a huge shout out to Karen Wilcox at Bryn Mawr. She does not necessarily work with Iliad or other ILL software on the daily, but she does know more than enough, and that she could provide a compass to help me find the finer details of my job. Entering this role, I knew that I had a lot to learn. So I reached out to a variety of individuals for help, all of whom either very graciously met me in person, emailed with me, or met with me on Zoom to talk about anything and everything related to resource sharing, libraries, and sometimes cats. I had so many meetings with different resource sharing practitioners around the world in my first 6 months. I don't think that I could name everyone. So if you were one of them, just thank you. Individuals from consortia that my institution is a part of, individuals with zero relation to Bryn Mawr College, people from ALA, from IFLA, just all over the world. And the point is, I very quickly discovered the graciousness of this resource sharing community and how all it really takes is initiating a conversation to receive any help you may need or want. To stretch the definition of mentor a little bit, I think the collective resource sharing community is a big mentor of sorts. So that's a little about me. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, excellent. So as mentioned previously, I am Dawn Mick and I'm the Access Services Department Head at Iowa State University in lovely Ames, Iowa. Never mind. We're on the slide. Never mind. Words. I started my first job in libraries in 2007 when the iPhone was brand new and Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix premiered in movie theaters. I was a circulation supervisor for Chris Library at the University of Nebraska at Omaha. I learned what it took to operate a mid-sized academic library, and it opened my eyes to some of the myths I had assumed about library work. The ILL unit was in the same department as circulation, so through proximity, I learned some basics about ILL and its functions. My supervisor at UNO, Joyce Newyear, was a wonderful mentor and gave me advice and encouragement as I acclimated to the library environment. While I was at UNO, I completed my MLIS online at University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee in 2009. In late 2010, I began my first official Big L librarian job at Missouri University of Science and Technology, also known as Missouri S&T, in Rolla, Missouri. As Access Services librarian, I oversaw a staff of 7, 4 in this position, words, 4 in circulation stacks maintenance, and 3 in ILL. I learned so much about ILL in this position from longtime employees and from colleagues in the University of Missouri system, as well as the Mobius Consortia. The position taught me additional people management skills and provided a rich trove of experience working within a small academic library. The skills and experiences I learned there allowed me to obtain a position at Iowa State University as the resource sharing and monograph acquisitions librarian. So at Iowa State, I began as a unit lead and I supervised a staff of 8, 3 resource sharing folks and 5 monograph acquisition folks. I worked closely with ILL staff, researching difficult requests, resolving billing issues, and refining our ILL acquisition process. Working with the acquisitions folks taught me a lot about how ordering works in a large academic library and has served me well as I've progressed in my library career. Let's see. Yes, next slide, sorry. In 2017, I was offered the role of Access Services Department Head by our dean at the time, Beth McNeil. Beth knew I had experience with Access Services, and I was excited by the opportunity to oversee circulation again. This added an additional 3 staff members and 30+ students to the now department. By 2018, the Course Reserves and Evening Supervisors Group, 6 additional people were added to the department. Responsibilities now included oversight of building hours, opening and closing the library, and patron safety. In late 2021, Monograph Acquisitions moved into a merged physical electronic access and acquisitions department, which worked well for me because by May 2022, the Space and Stacks Management Librarian retired. So her retirement presented the opportunity to incorporate Stacks maintenance into Access Services, which was a natural fit considering all the other units regularly interacted with physical items. Now I oversee 4 direct reports and 10 indirect reports, in addition to over 50 students. My responsibilities also extend to multiple locations. Our main library, the top photo, is the William and Ellen Sorge Parks Library, or Parks for short. That Med Branch Library is inside the College of Veterinary Medicine. And we have low-use materials in a storage facility less than a mile from campus with a very original name of Library Storage Facility. It's been quite a ride to get to this point in my library career, but I couldn't have done it without help. Next slide, please. So one of the questions we were asked to answer was whether there was a mentor who helped you get where you are. For me, there wasn't just one. For the most part, I've taken advantage of informal mentorships as I've advanced in my career. I asked for help or advice from anyone around me, from supervisors to colleagues, librarian and non-librarian, and even people outside the field. I ask, learn, observe, and adapt to improve services or simply be better at my job. I'd also like to acknowledge that I had the privilege of working with people of similar backgrounds and identities, which made it easier to find common ground to build informal mentoring relationships. I recognize this will not be the case for everyone. I tried to be a mentee in a formal mentorship program once at my university, but it didn't really work out. The problem was I didn't know the mentor that well and found out that their idea of mentorship was different than what I was expecting. However, I've been a mentor within the same program and really enjoyed it. A lot of success of a mentoring relationship depends on what you want out of it. So if a formal mentorship program is not available to you or seems too regimented for your needs, the great thing about informal mentorships is that it can happen organically. If you click with someone that you can, and they have experience you can learn from, you can decide what you want to learn from the mentor instead of following a specific structure. The relationship can be short-term or long-term, as both people decide, instead of a prearranged time frame. Plus, informal mentors can exist outside of the organization you work for, which can be useful if you're switching careers or workplaces. So regardless of how you find a mentor, it helps to start by networking. Next slide, please. So networking used to sound very scary to me, although I can be extroverted and outgoing, as some folks who have met me here can attest. I'm also an introvert by nature, and I'm sometimes scared to approach people. So what I've learned is, like Jacob was saying, one of the many wonderful traits of the people who work in libraries is that we like to help and we like to share. So ask your questions. People love to talk about themselves, their projects, and what they're excited about. I've had lots of chances to ask questions and get to know people at resource sharing conferences like NWILL or the Access Services Conference. In fact, the AI generated image on the slide reminds me of the ballrooms used at either the former Atlas conference or the OCLC resource sharing conference. I swear it like read my mind when I got this picture. Besides professional conferences, I've gotten to meet people at consortial meetings, both online and offline. Iowa State is a member of the Greater Western Library Alliance GWILA Consortium, so shout out to my GWILA folks here, which is how I know Jean, Katie, and several other folks here. The discussions, Zoom calls, and annual in-person meetings have been crucial in expanding my knowledge of ILL and learning how similar universities handle common issues. The 3 Iowa universities, Iowa State, the University of Iowa, and the University of Northern Iowa, are overseen by the Board of Regents. So we talk and share what's going on in our buildings, in our libraries, whatever. And I found listservs to be helpful for understanding what's happening in the ILL world and the names of the people you may also meet at conferences. Plus volunteering through RUSA. I'm a member of RUSA Stars, and I've gotten to meet, through my volunteer work at RUSA, I've gotten to meet people from all over the US who work in libraries big and small, which helps not only my ILL work, but access services work, and gives me a greater perspective of the challenges and opportunities other libraries are experiencing. So it's nice to get ideas flowing and to help get some commonality so you know you're not alone. Chances are that someone's experiencing the same things you are. So thank you so much. And now it's Jean's turn.
Okay.
Do you want to stay up there or? Okay. Sure, I do certainly do. There you go.
All right, sound check. How's that? Whoops, almost dropped it. We good? Yes? Okay. I was a school principal for a long time, so I have a really big mouth, but I've tried to calm it down because I live in the islands where we talk soft. So if I'm talking too soft, tell it, voice up. Okay. Yes, I am Jean Thoulag, and I'm not sure, well, I am sure of the title New and Improved and Tried and True. I've only been a librarian, academically certified librarian for 10 years. So I'm kind of new and working on improving. But as you can see, the gray hair, I'm a little bit tried and true. So Jacob and Dawn have shared their journey. I'm going to share my journey. And I almost want to call it The Places You'll Go, the Dr. Seuss line. So I have a slide up there. Yes, okay. From mountains to islands. My last name, Thoulag, is borrowed from my late husband's name. He came from a small Pacific atoll called Ulithi Atoll in Micronesia in the outer islands of Yap. And that name roughly translates, thou means far, or thou is beyond the reef, and lach is to go. So it implies a person who travels very far. I think that suits me. I grew up in a small mountain village in northern New York in the heart of the Adirondack Mountains. And when I finished college, I had a small town girl who had a big sense of adventure. I had no money. I wanted to see the world. The military wasn't of too much interest to me, so I joined the Peace Corps. And I went to that very small island, which was a square mile, by the way. It was very small. Anyways, I went there and I lived there for over 30 years. They laugh about the Peace Corps that go to the Pacific. They never go home. I was one of those. So if those of you who are familiar with Micronesia, it's a cultural geographical area. If you know where Hawaii is, keep going west towards Japan, Guam, if you know it. There's a whole lots and lots of little islands there between about 0 degrees or the equator up to about 15 degrees latitude. So I was on several of those during my career and following my late husband. And so anyways, that's where I go. And I said the places you'll go, but let me tell you some more. For where I am now, the last decade, I've lived in Hawaii. And I work at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, which is the flagship campus. We're an R1 research library, and I think we have about 18,000 students now. I currently serve in multiple roles. I was hired as a collection assessment librarian. I had a lot of management skills coming out of my other career. And so they hired me to run a project to assess about 18,000 linear feet of journals to see what we would keep, throw away, buy back files. I guess I did a good job because then when I applied for the Access Services Librarian, they hired me for that. And I've been doing that now. I also serve as a voluntary chair of the Public Services Division. We have six collection services in public service departments. So coordinating all of that. So she told you what access services mean. So yeah, I'm busy. I don't deal though, like on a day-to-day basis with ILL tasks. So I sort of feel like an imposter at times, but I'll say more about that feeling later. I do work very closely with our dedicated ILL librarian, Naomi Chow, and many of you may know her from NWILL, Northwest ILL. And I work with the other ILL staff, who of course are fantastic. And Naomi herself has been a fantastic mentor to me. When I started in a tenure track position, which I really had no idea what was required. She helped me through that process. I am tenured, and now I am tenure. I vested. I can retire if I want to too. Anyways, my boss said no, no, no. But Naomi and I work really close together using Iliad. During COVID, I learned a little bit how to process some of the things in the queue. During COVID. We navigate copyright issues all the time because we do controlled digital lending right now, focusing on our special resources. I learned about vouchers. I learned about making reports on everything. We make decisions on whether we're going to lend it or not, or talking to the other libraries. Can we share this? We talk about software and hardware solutions, copyright, resource sharing innovations. Naomi has been an innovator. She was working with Occam's Reader, if those of you know, and our early adoption of controlled digital lending and our remote microfilm viewing service. So let me talk a little bit more, as we say in the Island Talk story, to talk about my journey to librarianship. So some of you are in here, like Jacob, who are just going on your path to it. Has been, of course, unconventional. I spent many years in education. I was a classroom teacher. I was a school principal. I was a project director for a community college, and then assumed the library role without being a librarian. I ran the information resources and learning resources in Micronesia, which was after World War II. The nations were under United States Trust Territory administration, and then the countries and the islands had to decide what way they wanted to go. And so libraries sort of foundered, and it came out of the Japanese era and then the Americans. So there were many of us who said, well, you can't teach literacy without reading materials. We need libraries. So I worked with many people in that field. And I had the benefit of joining hands. There was a need, and that's just what we did. I immersed myself. I found out what to do. I started a small school library. I ran 2 high school libraries with student help. And you learn on the way, as Jacob had said, and Dawn and all of us, and I've heard the stories many times already today, through formal or informal mentors you'll meet on your way. I have been very blessed. So as I told you, I decided about 2010, 11, that I would do a change. I had a big change in my life, and I said, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? And I loved my librarian work, so I was actually on a board of selecting the scholarship winners from the Micronesian region to do the University of North Texas online Masters in Library Science program. And so I was very involved with that, and I sort of said, I don't need the scholarship, but can I join the program? And so I did, and I earned my master's through the University of North Texas, which was great. And I had some wonderful faculty there who helped be my mentors, in addition to my instructors. So in 2013, degree in hand, I got hired by the University of Manoa Library. And so here I am. So let me talk a little bit about mentorship, people that have come across my path and how it was a bit unique. I joined, when I was in Micronesia, they had just started the fledgling Pacific Islands Association of Libraries and Archives. And I was able to meet right away the late Dr. Karen Peacock, who was the curator of the Pacific Collection at UH. She put me in touch with Jane Barnwell, who used to work at University of Oregon, I found out. So some of you may know her. And then I was connected with Arlene Cohen from the University of Guam, who is an alumni of the University of Washington, and Patricia Cutright, who some of you know maybe from her time in Eastern Oregon and then Central Washington. And I know she worked with the Orbis Cascade. So all of these people helped me to connect and be a network for me out in Micronesia. And then while at the College of Micronesia, a very interesting thing happened to me. Jane Barnwell, who was working in Hawaii at that time at the Pacific Collection, was associated with the International Association of Marine Science Libraries and Information Centers, better known as IAMSLIC. It's an international organization of libraries, and it's small. And I was invited to go to them, and they gave me travel. And the first travel was to go all the way to Mazatlan, Mexico. On their dollar, all I had to do was go and talk to them. What kind of marine science resources are in the offices in Micronesia that our marine scientists should know and can borrow? So I kind of went there feeling like an imposter. I wasn't a librarian. I didn't do a whole lot of resource sharing. But I went, and it was a great group of people. They never felt like undermining me or making me feel like it was, I didn't know, I wasn't an imposter. And so I would say to you in the room, those of you who are just starting your career, go to conferences and don't feel like, well, it's a librarian's conference and I'm not a librarian yet. You belong at the table. You have a role. And if anything, I've learned to go to conferences. I knew more than I thought I knew. And when I went to the conference, I learned that I knew more. But I also would say, when you go to conferences, go to something totally outside your networks and your comfort level, outside your comfort zone. And so you'll broaden your network even further. So some of you will laugh. One of the first forays I had into ILL work was creating a union catalog of journals. And that's what you would do between libraries before computers. You'd all list it, and then you'd put it all into a package and share it. So be thankful for computers. Patricia Cutright landed on my network when her husband came to Micronesia to work with a project I was on to integrate technology. She decided to come along, and she got a sabbatical, and she spent a whole semester at the College of Micronesia. And she taught me about IMLS and writing grants. And we were able to write a huge grant to get library training for all the library workers and practitioners across Micronesia. And so that was a real learning experience for me, and the power of network. And of course, she knew people in Washington and people to be the trainers across the Pacific. And so that is a powerful example, I think, of being in the right place at the right time. So you can, if anything, I hope I shared that mentors can be pursued. I chase some of them. Sometimes they might just pop up unexpectedly, like Patricia Cutright. My advice, take advantage of anybody who's willing to be a hand to you. Learn from them. So we talked about essential networking, both of them. I've heard many this morning. We talked about networking with Lapis and his group. We're all broadening our networks by just being here this week. I wanted to mention that I expanded my network through ALA's Access Services Interest Group, because I am the head of Access Services. And the funny story is I got the job and I really didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. So I went to the conference and I signed up to create the framework for Access Services librarianship. So you'll see my name there. Now I know what I'm supposed to be doing. So I have been, on the side with NWILL, although Naomi, my ILL colleague, mostly goes to those meetings on our behalf. And more recently, I joined Northwest ILL, and I was just so impressed by the group. I wanted to be here this year and volunteer. So the last thing that I did was put my name forward to be on the executive board for RUSA STARS. I'm a star. I really like that. For those of you who don't know, that's the ALA's Reference and User Services, and STARS stands for Sharing and Transforming Access to Resources. So, and if you're new to this, that STARS addresses interests of libraries and library staff involved with interlibrary loan, document delivery, remote circulation, access services, cooperative reference, and all that other stuff, and remote storage too. So I sound like I'm advertising for them. I sort of am. So last year, through my participation in RUSA STARS, I was involved, not in the writing of it, but in the reviewing and the approving the recently adopted Professional Competencies for Research Sharing Practitioners. And I like that title. I like the word at the end, practitioners, because that involves all of us, whether we're paraprofessionals, whether we're a student assistant, we all have a part in it, these competencies. So allow me to very, very briefly, because I know we're tired of sitting and we are hungry and they're bringing the lunch in, go over very quickly the competencies. So that is the next stage. Okay. So actually it's 7 pages, well, it's 5 PDF pages long. It has 7 sections. It has an introduction. It has 7 sections. And in the sections are embedded resource links. There was a discussion, do we embed them or do we put them in an addendum or whatever? The decision was to embed them. The sessions are resource sharing standards, guidelines, and applicable laws. And that's where you'll find the links to all of those things, the laws, you know, the copyright law, et cetera, et cetera. The second is about how do you go about facilitating requests between libraries, search skills, tech skills, customer service and patron privacy, accessibility and diversity, and financial literacies. Okay. Next slide. So how can you use these? You can use them to update your job description, to make a new job description. You can march it over to your supervisor or your university librarian or whatever and say, hey, I do this. Doesn't my job description, this is what I do, match it up. Or you're recruiting a new person, you can use those to help do that. Job preparation, you know, what would you need to do if you were a student to get prepared for a career in ILL or interested in going that route? You could use them for training when you onboard new people. You can use it if you're a supervisor for performance evaluation to see strengths and weaknesses, not as a punitive tool, but a mentoring, advising tool. And Jacob mentioned in his presentation yesterday about every chance he gets, he tries to put a plug in there for some kind of training or information on ILS in his curricula for library and information science programs. So you can use this in many ways. I hope you will. They are openly accessible and available on the ALA RUSA website. So I thank you for letting me share my story today. And so whether you're new to the field or a seasoned professional, there's always value in building connections, as you know, seeking out mentors and contributing to our collective knowledge. Find a mentor, be a mentor, and build a network. You'll get great joy out of being a mentor when you see your mentees progress. Oh, and the best part is, based on my experience, you'll meet some gracious and amazing people, and you might even get to go to places around the world like Tasmania, where I went the second time for I Am Slick, and they paid for it. So, thank you, everybody.
Excellent. We want to thank all of our panelists. We do have about 10 minutes for questions. I don't see many in the Q&A, but if you've got a question in the space, go ahead and put your hand up and we'll bring a mic to you. While we're waiting on that, a question for the panel and really anyone. What would you want practitioners of a different level of experience than you to know? If you've been doing this for a while, what do you want newbies to know? If you are brand new and you started this summer, what do you want those of us who've been around for a bit to know? It's a hard question.
It is. I mean, I would say talk to the people in your office and ask them what listservs or what information places they could go to. Get your job description. What else? Yeah, start connecting in somewhere. Colleagues? Oh, sure. I'm hogging the mic. No wonder nobody's doing it.
I think if you are a seasoned practitioner or librarian And especially, I noticed in the Whova app, there are many who are close to retirement within 2 to 5 years. Write a 5 or 10-page document for your person who's going to follow you, your successor, saying, hey, here were my challenges over the past 30 years. Here's what I succeeded with. Here's some stuff to know about our particular context and department, since everyone's a little bit different. Just both for the successor, but if everyone did that, we'd have a lot of data to work with, and could compile something like a specialized journal issue or a book or something of that sort, which would be, I think, very helpful for the community and individuals.
I could just take that out. I mean, come on, it's fun.
Hi.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me now?
Yes.
One of the things I talk about with my college students and the high school students that I have are that library is such a vast field, and there's so many different kinds of places that you can work and things that you can do, and that it's always eye-dropping. So I try to spread that word.
Very good. We've got some answers in the chat as well. There's so much to know and learn. If you are new, don't compare yourself to someone who's doing this for a decade, and find ways to leave your legacy in a teachable way for everyone to add to. And I think we have a presentation later this afternoon that this dovetails into nicely. So stay tuned for that part.
I would say too, just be prepared to roll with the punches. You can't, as you probably all know, because you all do ILL, you can't get too uptight about how things should be or what you want to have. I mean, certainly complain if someone doesn't, if another library does something that you're like, "Ugh, I don't care about that, complain to your colleagues, whatever." But I think I've had some interesting and unique situations happen, like the time when the postal truck caught on fire in July of 2014. It was 15, sorry. So I had to write all these libraries and be like, yeah, your stuff just disappeared into a pile of smoke, maybe. And some of them we ended up getting back. So, I don't think anything in library school or in my previous experience could have prevented or could have prepared me for like, oh my gosh, literally the truck just caught on fire. So yeah, so I think that's my biggest one, is just kind of roll with the punches and find out what you can. Don't like Libby was saying earlier, like copyright is not, you are not the grand poobah of all copyright, so don't feel like it all has to be on you. So
I like what you said about taking them around the different parts of the library. I was asked by Hawaii Library Association does a mentoring program, and I think they have their stuff online. So what's a good mentor? What's the relationship, etc. So I was assigned a young woman, or asked to help. She's not in library school yet. She's interested. So we're working on career exploration. So you may be new and maybe your mentor, and you can say, well, where do you want to be in 5 years? Or if you want to go, or where do you want to grow? Yeah, that's my thought on that one.
Those of you who have found a mentor through an official path, what path worked for you? That can be anybody raising a hand. So Hawaii Library Association has one, we know that. What other paths for mentorship do we know of?
One of the groups in ALA, and I should have written it down. I can't, it slips my mind at the moment. Does anybody out there know? Is it CORE? Okay. Email one of us, we'll help you find it.
Good. If you found a mentor in an unusual place, anywhere good? Anybody find it in line at Chipotle? No, but we got somebody with a hand raised in the back.
We started
We can hear you.
we started a mentor program about 2006 with the IDS project. And we've been doing that for 18 years. We recently changed it from mentoring to a more of a peer advisor. So what we do is, instead of having people go library to library, we set up meetings, we have virtual meetings, we have phone calls. And we have people that are assigned to each of the individual libraries in the project so that they are there and available to answer questions. We've also are in the process of putting together an orientation packet for all the new library staff that are coming into our member libraries, because we found that there's been a good number that have come in and said, I just found out I'm a member and I don't know what this means. So we have an orientation system that we're putting together to help out the new folks that didn't even know that they were members because everybody else had left or retired before they were hired. So it's some of the stuff that we're trying to do to help out. But I think the best part is really we can each be each other's mentors, and we can be each other's peers, and we can help out.
Very good. So some excellent options through IDS. I think some of our consortia also do similar things. Greater Western Library Alliance has something similar with their committees, and I think some other folks do as well. We've got about 4, maybe 3 more minutes. Do we have any other additional questions?
I have a thought. I don't have a question. You know, your mentor doesn't necessarily have to be from the library community either. I had a person who was my mentor in a way, and looking at my career, what were my issues, how I could move forward. And we met once a month outside of both our workplaces. And that was very, very helpful. So it doesn't have to be a library practitioner.
And if I may put in a shameless plug for the IFLA New Professional Special Interest Group, we do hold, I think, every 3 months networking cafes, which is a great way to meet new professionals around the world. The next one's October 22nd. If you are interested, shoot me an email. Should have put it in the slide deck, but I kind of forgot. So just hit me up and I can get you that info if you'd like.
Fantastic. All kinds of good resources. We've got some links in the chat as well for those of you who are in person, so you can check it out in a minute. Donna, did you have something?
No.
Just grab the mic.
I'm just holding it.
When you're
I'm in the
ready.
middle. I'm in the middle.
Give it to me.
I'm holding
I'm
the
not
mic.
shy. When you're done, and I will announce about the, this is not my lunch. But we're ready to go to lunch. But
Whenever
that's
you're
next-
ready.
Oh, okay. So, is it on?
Yeah.
Okay. Next door, those of you who signed up to be mentees and those of you who signed up to be mentors, so mentor, Lori and Kristen. We'll be going next door. This will be on a table with a little card. Sit at any table. You get your lunch if you want to be a mentee, or if you want to be a mentor, there's an extra table. Get your lunch and go sit at a table with one of these. And there's some little goodies from Hawaii in there, and you can fight over who gets to keep the lunch bags. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
So a couple of housekeeping things before we close this session. I know there are some folks who don't remember if they signed up to be a mentor or mentee. Is there someone they can check in with? All right, so check in with Jean if you don't remember if you signed up. Also, we'll remind you again later in the day, but this is one of the times where everybody's in the same space. We're in a different room tomorrow that's on a different floor. Mentally prepare yourself. But it's the same building. It's just not this room. It will be okay. And in the meantime, we thank all of our presenters so much. Thank you all for attending this session. Please complete our post-session survey in Whova, which you can access in the link in the session chat. And the NWILL Planning Committee and our presenters appreciate your feedback. If you want to continue the conversation, as with all of our sessions, you can use the chat within the session or use the Whova community section to meet at another time. Thank you so much. Enjoy your lunch.